When people with disabilities protest their lives, particularly with aggressive behavior, the professional response is to put them on behavior programs. It rarely occurs to those of us who do or have done this that we are in fact working in a larger social pattern of keeping dissident voices silent, of keeping the powerless powerless.
Herb, in your book, you seem to reject many of the typical interventions or practices that people who work with people with severe and profound disabilities use: behavior modification, behavior management, making rewards contingent on certain behavior. Have you always felt that that was an inappropriate way of interacting with people with disabilities?
I wasn't trained to. And I should make one qualifier to that, in that I have no argument with behavior modification, and I have no argument with contingencies so long as they're socially ordinary.
What do you mean by that?
For instance, there are programs where if you have a bad day at work, you can't watch television at night. That doesn't make any sense to me for adults. I mean, that's just not a socially ordinary contingency. But if you want to go on a picnic with somebody and you've just beaten them up, chances are they're going to be less eager to go have a sandwich with you. That feels like an ordinary, and it's not a pre-designed, rigorously pursued thing. It's just, I don't want to do that.
Do those tend to be powerful enough contingencies or reinforcers so that they really have the impact you want to in eliminating the negative behavior or establishing better behavior?
If they don't, then it's really saying what your relationship is about. I mean, there are people in some relationships where a raised eyebrow causes a change in pulse and respiration. Is, well, what did I do? And I think we respond to each other as much as we value each other. And it's that sense that. But if I walk in off the street and say, well, what a wonderful afternoon, you're going on a picnic with me. You may look forward to that, but you might not, too. I don't see that as... But oftentimes that's described as a positive social experience, and it sounds nice, but it may not be nice.
Was there a time when you were less concerned about whether response to somebody's behavior was socially ordinary?
I think what happened was I got into business... I started out... went to graduate school to be a clinical psychologist, and all of this clinical background, and I got to meet people with developmental disabilities by force. I was assigned to do a couple of days a week, and I didn't understand any of it. I had no experience in that field, and I got there, and it was a large institution. People were being locked up, and I couldn't understand what had happened. Why was this? And these were people that I would walk in and have a cup of coffee with, sit down and chat, and yet they were under lock and key. And the whole idea was that if their behavior became fussy or people were disturbed by it, that I was to write a program to control it. And that was my mission, and I never did very well with it.
Why not?
I just couldn't understand. One of the first things that happened to me was a man who, and I understood this perfectly, liked to drink a coffee, and they had used coffee as a reward for him for in-seat behavior in his day-wasting program.
For what kind of behavior?
In-seat, which is a vital skill. And here's this man in his mid-20s, and he was sorting plastic chips into buckets. And he was expected to do that all day, and he occasionally would get up and wander, and so to reinforce him, they were giving him coffee. Problem was he really liked the coffee. Started running into offices, stealing it from people, and it was a bit of a health hazard, because he would take like a pot of coffee that was really hot and just spill it all over himself. He could get burned. There's a little meeting about, well, how are we going to control this? And people had been escorting him arm in arm around the building so that he wouldn't do this. And he got seriously hurt at one point in a struggle over it.
He was getting no coffee at this point?
Well, he could have one at break and one at lunch, and 3 cups a day, which is all anyone needs.
Are you being facetious?
Yes, of course. I mean, some of us have 3 cups before we get out of bed, if we can arrange it. So here's this man struggling to get something, and they wanted to struggle back. And it seemed that was awfully naive. What I asked them to do was go over to the shopping center, buy a Mr. Coffee, go to the market, buy the coffee, teach him how to make it. And this way he would have a coffee machine there. He would learn that you drink coffee when you want it and when it's available, and you don't have to steal. And he stopped stealing. But people get very resentful that why should he have a coffee machine when we don't? And the program got discontinued. What I should have done was taken the people who were providing the services over to the shopping center and bought them a coffee machine.
So what finally happened to the man?
It was interesting. They stopped that. They said it's unfair. Why should he have coffee when no one else has the coffee, etc., etc. And they took it away, and he did not go back to being so aggressive. It was almost as if, having learned enough, having had coffee on his own terms for enough, that he went back to having it at the times they controlled for him and accommodated, which is too bad.
So is the message there that we can allow somebody to have control in their lives for a while, and then we can take it back away from them, and it'll be okay?
No. I think I see it more as the generosity of spirit for some people, that they've learned that once in a while you get what you want in life, and it's worth hanging in there for. Yeah, that's a dangerous story in a lot of ways, for just the moral you drew. But my interest was not to control his drinking coffee. My interest was to provide him again with a kind of setting where, there's no coffee shortage where he lived. It would be to teach him that if you need something in this world and it's available, get it.
But if the rules of that a particular company where he was working is that people can drink coffee when they have their break and they can't drink coffee at other times, aren't we enabling him to live a more normal life if he follows the same rules everybody else does?
Mm-hmm. That's a very powerful argument, except that the so-called company he worked for was a state institution. He was not getting any money. He was living under lock and key. It was a non-paid training program. What did he get? Furthermore, he was not only working at a job he didn't choose, and I don't think particularly liked. It wasn't even a job. It was meaningless. These plastic chips. Living in a place with 29 other men that all he had in common was society's label. And then to turn around and say, but if he were to get a job out in the community, then he would be expected to do that. So we'll start that now. I would like to see what would he be like if. Well, first off, let's get him out there. And if he's running around, if he's working for IBM or some reputable corporation and running around stealing things, stealing coffee, that's going to be pretty damaging to his reputation. And it's there that you could establish the context that here we drink at break. But most of the jobs I've had, you can pretty much drink coffee when you feel like it.